Let's talk about 2 ways that you can make your meats shelf stable right in your own home. Hi, I'm Jonathan, the Provident Prepper. We ended up with a whole bunch of ground beef, and instead of keeping it in our freezer where we would have the potential of losing it, we're going to make it shelf stable, and we're going to do that in 2 ways. We're going to use the freeze dryer, but we're also going to bottle it and use the pressure canner to make sure that we do it safely. Let's talk just for a moment about this pressure canner. We saved up to get this because this is an extremely valuable tool. This is the All-American 921 pressure canner cooker. This does not have any kind of a rubber gasket. It's a metal on metal seal, so it does a really good job. You don't have anything that's going to wear out there. This does have the dial, but it has the weight. It's a 5, 10, or 15 pound weight that you use on here, and this is what really controls. And so that keeps a nice steady pressure in there. This clamps on here with these wing nuts, and this just clamps down incredibly tight all the way around, so you've got a really good seal. These are very safe. It does have the emergency plug that will pop out if there's a problem. Just a great tool, and it allows you to do the pressure canning, which is really the only safe way that you can do your meats. We have the pressure canner out on the camp chef, and we're going to start by adding about 2 to 3 inches of water into the bottom of the canner. You never want to put the bottles right directly on the bottom of the canner. The canner comes with 2 shelves. One is a divider and one on the bottom. They're actually exactly the same. But we'll put that in the bottom. Then we will bring the jars out. Before we put the lid on, we're going to put just a little thin bead of olive oil right around this taper. For this batch, we're going to be doing quart jars. So we've got them in here. We're going to put the lid on and off we go. Now, when you put this on, this arrow needs to line up with this notch here. So we line that up. Then we can start putting these on, and you want to do 2 at a time that are exactly opposite each other, and you want to keep the gap around the edge as even and consistent as we can. So we'll tighten these a little bit, then we'll take 2 more, tighten those, and just make sure that we've got a nice even gap around here. Take these last 2 and tighten them down, and you don't want to use any kind of wrench or pliers to put those down. Just hand tight is going to be plenty. So now we've had the steam plume for about 10 minutes, just a little more than 10 minutes. So we're going to put the weight on there, the pressure regulator weight. As you can see, it has a 5, 10, and 15 pound setting on there. We're going to use the 15 pound hole and put it right on like that. Now it will continue to build pressure up until 15 pounds. So now we're up at full pressure, the gauge is there, and it's now spewing a lot of steam. So we've turned it down. We don't want it to be blowing this much steam out now. We want that to rock every 15 seconds or so. So it's on its way down. It's going to then settle in at about 15 pounds and finish the job. We have 10 pounds of cooked ground beef that we put through the freeze dryer. This went in our larger freeze dryer, and it is ready to be packaged. We're going to start by putting an oxygen absorber in the bottom of each of these bottles, and then we will get them filled. That 10 pounds of cooked ground beef yielded us 7 quart jars full of ground beef plus 2 pint pouches. And we're going to go ahead and seal these up now. So we got our new pressure canner, and we have used a dial pressure canner in the past. This is a weighted pressure canner, and I think I like it better. There was a little bit of a learning curve to getting it right, but we finally got that kind of worked out and figured out, and it went pretty well. We did break a couple of jars, and we had a little bit of an issue with a lot of the jars losing liquid. We're still trying to figure out exactly what that is or why that happened, but it did, and it kind of made a little bit of a greasy mess in the pressure cooker.
Yeah, and we broke a few jars too, right? But even in the batches where we didn't break any jars, these were really greasy, and so I had to give them all a nice bath and scrub them up before we were able to put them away in storage. But the really cool thing is we've just extended the shelf life, and theoretically you're supposed to get a year, or officially you're supposed to get a year, but this could sit on the shelf for 3 or 4 years in a cool place and be just fine. So that's much better.
Yes, and
than the frozen.
More than likely this will be a little more tenderized because it cooked a while out there. Yeah, it was a long process. It took 90 minutes once you got it up to pressure. So it was a longer process. We were up till 11:30 that night because we didn't realize it was going to take so long for each batch. But it has worked out.
Yeah, and that's okay. Now I'm going to talk about freeze drying. And after doing both of these at the same time, okay, I have to say I prefer freeze drying. If I was doing some really tough cuts of meat, I would prefer the pressure canning method because it would soften them. But with the freeze drying, I just took the cooked hamburger, and put it on the trays. We put the trays in, and 2 days later when we pulled it out, we have just beautiful hamburger crumbles, right? I love the way that they rehydrate. I would never reuse the lids on pressure canned meat. Right. But on these that are freeze dried, these are new lids that we used on here, but I would feel just fine reusing them again because they haven't been used in wet pack. They've only been used in dry pack. We did put oxygen absorbers in these. The other thing, especially with the lid shortage that's going on right now, the Mylar works really well, and it's so lightweight. Now this will have a much longer shelf life than the pressure canned just because it's freeze dried, so there's no moisture in here. The cooler your storage temperature, the longer it will last. But as you can see, there was still a lot of fat in this, and fat is one of the things that reduces your shelf life. So if I'm freeze drying something that doesn't have any fat in it, it's going to have a longer shelf life. So I would definitely make sure that I've rotated this, what do you think, within 5 to 10 years?
Yeah, certainly.
Yeah, but the plan is actually not to put this on the shelf and keep it there forever. It's to use it in our daily meals, right? And so that's where the question of the day comes in. You can't see all the bottled hamburger that's on that side of the camera. We have 40 pounds of hamburger that we need to eat in the next few years to keep it rotated. So, what is your favorite recipe where you use hamburger?
Comment below. And thanks for being part of the solution.